Imagine a world where robots could feel with the sensitivity of human skin, or a world where a prosthetic limb anticipates your movements just as naturally as your own arm. Sounds like something straight out of a science fiction blockbuster, right? But what if I told you that scientists aren't just dreaming this up? They're building the literal organic building blocks for this future right now. And they're doing it by taking cues from the most incredible computer we know, our own nervous system. Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we unpack groundbreaking research, make it accessible, exciting, and, frankly, a bit mind-bending. Today, we're plunging into the fascinating realm of organic artificial nerves. Our mission for this deep dive is to explore how these bio-inspired electronics are poised to revolutionize, well, everything from advanced robotics to cutting-edge bioelectronics, basically acting like tiny, flexible, organic versions of our very own nerves. You're in for a treat.
And to guide our exploration today, we're drawing from a really comprehensive review article. It's titled Organic Artificial Nerves, Neuromorphic Robotics and Bioelectronics.
Huh.
It was just published in Chemical Reviews back in February 2025. So very current stuff. This isn't just one study, but it's a synthesis of the latest advancements, co-authored by a brilliant team including Min-Jin Soong, Kwon-Young Kim, and led by Professor Tae-Woo Lee from Seoul National University. They've really pulled together the state-of-the-art in this field. It's moving fast.
Okay, yeah, let's set the stage then, because understanding the problem these artificial nerves are solving, it really highlights their genius, doesn't it? Think about how much data your brain processes every single second: sight, sounds, touch, temperature. It's just this astounding constant flow that your body handles, effortlessly. Now, contrast that with your smartphone or your laptop. Incredible machines, absolutely. But they operate on something called the von Neumann architecture.
Hey.
This is essentially a system where data is stored in one place, and the processor has to constantly go fetch it, process it, and then store it back again.
Exactly. And that's the bottleneck. Imagine trying to capture, the chaotic, beautiful flow of a wide river through a tiny, rigid pipe. That's sort of what conventional computing faces with the sheer volume of unstructured analog sensory data. The kind needed for real-time applications like advanced robotics or precise bioelectronics. The data has to be continuously converted from analog to digital, transmitted, processed bit by bit, then converted back for action. This whole process is incredibly energy intensive. It's slow, relatively speaking, and needs bulky hardware. That's the core inefficiency this research really aims to overcome.
And yet our bodies manage this symphony of data with incredible elegance and efficiency, right?
Yeah.
What's the fundamental principle? What's the secret sauce?
It all comes back to the human nervous system. It's not just our brain. It's the entire intricate, distributed network. From the delicate sensory receptors in your skin feeling a breeze to the muscles that instantly move your hand to catch something. This system is remarkably compact, unbelievably energy efficient, and crucially, it uses parallel processing. So countless tasks happen simultaneously, not one after another like in most computers. It even pre-processes information, filtering out what's not important before it even hits the brain. But here's where it gets really interesting. It constantly adapts. It learns. This ability is driven by something called synaptic plasticity. Basically, the connections between neurons strengthen or weaken based on experience. That's how we learn, how we remember, how we adapt.
So if I'm getting the biological inspiration here, we're talking about mimicking how our bodies use two main types of nerves: the afferent nerves, bringing sensory info in, and the efferent nerves, carrying motor commands out, creating that whole loop.
Precisely. That's the goal. Emulate that hierarchical coordination, that efficiency, to create artificial systems that learn and respond in a much more human-like, low-power way, moving way beyond those traditional computing limits you mentioned.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yep.
How do you even begin to build an artificial nerve? Something that mimics a biological synapse, which is, incredibly complex and subtle.
Right. It's a huge challenge.
Right.
But the core component these scientists are using is the organic synaptic transistor. We usually call it an OST. These are electronic devices, but they're made from organic materials, so carbon-based semiconductors. And they cleverly mimic the function of a biological synapse. Now, there are different types being developed, but this paper really focuses on a particularly promising subtype: ion gel-gated OSTs, or IGOSTs. They've shown just remarkable performance and energy efficiency.
Ion gel-gated.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty advanced. How exactly do these IGOSTs work their magic? How do they replicate a synapse?
Think of it like this. In your brain, in a biological synapse, you have tiny chemical messengers, neurotransmitters, carrying signals across a microscopic gap. Right. In an IGOST, an ion gel acts very much like that chemical messenger. When a small electrical signal, the presynaptic spike, comes in, ions physically move within that gel, and this movement subtly changes the electrical conductivity of the organic semiconductor channel it's connected to. This process directly mimics the strengthening or weakening of a biological synapse. And what's truly striking, really key here, is that IGOST operate at incredibly low voltages. We're talking just a few volts, sometimes less. Compare that to the tens of volts needed for conventional transistors.
Wow, so a tiny electrical whisper makes a significant difference. It's huge for efficiency. And a remarkable finding from the paper that jumped out at me, this wow fact, was that IGOS can achieve a transconductance. That's the measure of how well it controls current, right?
Exactly.
Of 100 to 1,000 Siemens per meter. You say conventional ones are like 1 to 10.
That's right. Maybe up to 10 on a good day for traditional organic transistors.
So up to 1,000 times better. That level of control and energy efficiency, it's not just a small step. It feels like a fundamental shift. It means we're moving from these clunky, power-hungry systems to something that could actually be compact and efficient enough to maybe integrate with biology, which has always been a massive hurdle.
That efficiency is absolutely a key differentiator. It makes these devices far, far more suitable for these kinds of bio-inspired applications.
Okay, so our brains have short-term memory, long-term memory. Can these artificial nerves do the same? Can they adapt quickly but also, learn things long-term?
Absolutely. And this is where the tunable synaptic plasticity of these OSTs becomes incredibly powerful. It's one of their superpowers, really. We can engineer them for what we call short-term plasticity, STP. That's like a rapid temporary memory. Think about how your brain filters out a constant background noise after a few seconds. That's STP. It's crucial for immediate adaptation. Or we can tune them for long-term plasticity, LTP. This enables more sustained changes, memory consolidation. That's where the real learning and long-term retention comes in.
How do they actually tune it? Is it like different materials, or is there some clever engineering trick involved?
It's actually a combination of ingenious methods. Professor Taewoo Lee and his team, they've explored this extensively. First, they can leverage the fabrication process itself. A relatively simple approach is just using an annealing temperature, basically, heating the material. By heating the organic semiconductor, say a polymer like PTIEMP, at different temperatures, they can precisely control its microstructure, how ordered or disordered the molecules are. Disordered regions let ions move easily and quickly. That gives you short-term memory, STP. But more crystalline, ordered structures, they tend to trap ions longer. And that results in long-term memory, LTP. They actually showed a remarkable shift in how long the memory lasts, from milliseconds all the way up to tens of seconds, just by changing the annealing temperature from 80 degrees Celsius up to 310.
Wow, that's a huge difference in memory duration just from heating it differently. That's amazing control at the material level.
It really highlights the elegance of organic electronics, yeah. Second, they can use synthetic design. This means actually engineering the chemical structure of the organic semiconductor molecule itself. For example, using a stronger electron donating unit, in the polymer they compared PIJet versus PIGBT can significantly boost retention times, enabling longer-term memory. Even subtle changes to the side chains on the molecules influence how ions move and get trapped. It's like designing the memory properties right into the material. And third, they can use additives and blends. So adding something like a photocross linker and shining UV light can physically reduce the free space in the film. That restricts ion movement and shifts the device from short-term towards longer-term memory behavior. It's all about fine-tuning how those ions interact with and move through the organic material. It's quite sophisticated.
Okay, so these incredibly tunable artificial synapses with their adaptable memory are fascinating on their own. Really cool science. But where does this get truly exciting for us? What can these artificial nerves actually do out there in the real world?
Right, the applications. This technology is already being applied in two major and, frankly, revolutionary areas: neuromorphic robotics and neuromorphic bioelectronics. The possibilities here are, well, they're immense. They could stretch into almost every corner of human-machine interaction.
Okay, let's start with artificial senses. How sensitive can these get? Could they potentially give robots or maybe even prosthetics an entirely new, more intuitive way to perceive the world around them?
Absolutely. Take, for example, a groundbreaking study from 2018. This was by Kim et al., published in Science. They demonstrated an artificial afferent nerve, so a sensory nerve that could actually read Braille. It integrated pressure sensors, organic oscillators, and these IGOSTs. And the system didn't just detect pressure. Crucially, the IGOSTs were able to integrate signals from multiple sensors simultaneously. This significantly improved its ability to distinguish the Braille characters. It perfectly mimics how our biological neurons integrate various tactile inputs to form a complete perception.
That's a really critical distinction, isn't it? Moving beyond just simple detection to genuinely interpreting complex information, like reading. But how robust is that interpretation? Like, what happens if the braille dots aren't perfectly formed or the pressure varies, things a human hand adjusts to?
That's exactly what researchers are tackling now, robustness and adaptation. Another tactile OAN, this one shown by Chen et al., in Nature Communications just this year, 2024, emulated how our biological mechanoreceptors process touch. It showed that when multiple touch sensors were triggered, if the inputs were synchronous versus asynchronous, they generated different electrical responses. Asynchronous inputs actually produce the strongest response. This closely mirrors how our skin perceives complex stimuli and, importantly, filters out noise or irrelevant signals. And it's not just touch. Shim et al. Developed visual cognitive skins using arrays of photodetectors and eyegausts. They demonstrated neuromorphic pattern reinforcement even when the skin was being stretched. That was in PNAS in 2022. So yes, they're definitely building in that robustness and adaptability.
Okay, so from sensing to action, how do these artificial nerves actually control robots? Can they give them a sense of, I don't know, awareness?
Yeah.
Or maybe more practically, can they help them learn?
They absolutely can help them learn and move more naturally. They're enabling human-like, sort of non-intrusive motions, and with significantly lower power consumption. Krauhausen et al., in Science Advances back in 2021, demonstrated organic neuromorphic robots with actual learning capability. Picture this. A little robot navigating a maze. Initially, it just turns right, hits a wall, it gets a punishment, a mechanical stimulus. After just 16 training iterations, the robot learned purely through these adaptive circuits without any new programming to turn left instead and escape the maze.
Wow. Learning from experience without complex code changes. That's really a potential game changer for autonomous robots, isn't it? What are the immediate limitations, though? How quickly can they learn complex things? Is it just simple maze solving for now?
That's a good question. Right now, yes, it's often about relatively simple tasks and learning paradigms. The maze experiment is a clear binary choice, learn left or right, but the potential is undeniable. For tactile learning, Quion et al. In Science Advances last year, 2023, developed a sensory eyegaust that could learn to grasp and hold an object stably for a long time after just a single grab. It mimics our own sensory memory, how we learn the right grip pressure, or imagine a robotic hand with human-like dexterity. Rowe et al. In Nature Communications, also 2023, developed something called a parallel processable synaptic array, or PPSA, using eyegausts. It could control a coordinated robotic hand with very human-like, almost spontaneous motion. A single control signal could make different fingers bend to varied degrees, like a conductor leading an orchestra with subtle gestures. But, and this is key, with vastly simplified electronics compared to conventional robotic control systems.
Okay, this definitely feels like it's blurring the lines, moving into territory we usually only see in movies.
No.
Can these artificial nerves actually integrate with living organisms? Can we truly bridge that gap between electronics and biology?
Yes. And this, for me, is perhaps the most awe-inspiring frontier. It's where things get really wild. Back in 2018, Kim et al., the same group from the Braille study showed an artificial reflex arc where a flexible OAN was actually attached to a discoid cockroach. A pressure sensor on the OAN converted touch stimuli into frequency-encoded signals. The iJOS then translated those signals to stimulate the cockroach's own efferent nerves, causing its leg to move in a controlled way.
So literally making a cockroach leg twitch on command using an artificial nerve, that's not just, wow, that's genuinely mind-bending when you think about the possibilities and, frankly, the ethics down the line.
It certainly raises questions, but building on that, Wang et al., in Science in 2023, demonstrated an artificial sensorimotor loop in a rat, a full loop. Stretchable artificial neurons converted pressure information into frequency-coded signals, which were then transferred directly to the rat's somatosensory cortex, the part of the brain that processes touch. Then, motor signals from the rat's motor cortex were detected and applied to a stretchable iJOS, which then stimulated the sciatic nerve, causing the leg muscle to contract. This represents a direct two-way connection, an artificial system listening to the brain and talking back to the nerves.
Okay, and here's another detail from the paper that just underscores the potential here, another wow moment. Lee et al. In Nature Biomedical Engineering in 2023. They showed how a biohybrid OAN, integrating artificial proprioceptors, sensors for body position, and these stretchable eyegausts, could enable bipedal walking locomotion in paralyzed mice. Actually walking.
Yeah.
And get this neuro-inspired processing technique consumed only 1150th of the power compared to using conventional microprocessor systems. It could even perform complex actions like kicking a tiny ball or running on a treadmill. This isn't just restoring basic movement, it's restoring purposeful, learned movement with incredible energy efficiency.
That energy efficiency is absolutely critical. It's a key reason these organic systems are so promising for implantable, long-term bioelectronic devices that could actually help people.
This is truly incredible progress. The applications, yeah, they span from sophisticated robots to potentially restoring lost biological functions. It's amazing. But as with any groundbreaking tech, what stands in the way? What are the big challenges before we see this in every advanced robot or, the next generation of prosthetic limbs?
Right. There are definitely significant hurdles still to overcome, practical challenges. First, there's a considerable power mismatch. It's a bit ironic. While the iGests themselves are incredibly energy efficient, operating in the femtowatt to microwatt range, like tiny sips of power, the actual devices they need to control, like robot actuators or motors and prosthetics, often demand much higher power, milliwatts, sometimes even tens of milliamperes. So this means we still need additional, more power-hungry components to bridge that gap. Amplifiers, drivers, and that increases the overall complexity and, unfortunately, the energy use for the whole system. It's sort of like having the super efficient brain but needing a separate, massive power plant just to make a finger move.
Okay, so the artificial nerves are brilliantly efficient, but the muscles they need to talk to are still pretty power hungry. That makes sense. It's a system problem.
Exactly, it's a system integration issue. Second, we need even lower voltage operation for seamless biological interfaces. For truly seamless integration with biological systems, especially if we want to detect and respond to actual brain signals directly, which are tiny. These iJosts and artificial neurons need to operate reliably down at the millivolt level. That's the voltage range of biology. Currently, most operate at hundreds of millivolts. That's close, but it still means we often need amplification for truly precise, direct biological interaction.
So we need these devices to learn to speak the brain's own language, right down to its faintest whisper, without needing a megaphone, essentially.
Precisely. Well put. Third, there's the critical challenge of true stretchability. This is huge for implants and soft robotics. For these devices to really conform to the contours of a soft robot or be safely implanted inside the flexible dynamic environment of the human body, all the components, the organic semiconductors, the conductors connecting them, the ion gels, they all need to be intrinsically stretchable. And crucially, they need to maintain their electrical performance while being stretched. We've made progress, but many current solutions still see a drop in performance under strain. We need them to be like biological tissue, flexible and functional. And finally, the ultimate goal of full closed-loop systems. Replicating the incredibly complex, real-time feedback loops of biological systems entirely within an artificial closed-loop system. That's still a major challenge. The dream is fully analog processing, where the system continuously learns and adapts without any external digital computers involved. We're getting closer for specific tasks, but high-level cognitive functions still often require some digital processing help for now.
This has been a truly enlightening deep dive. It feels like this field is really pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Let's quickly recap some key takeaways from all this groundbreaking research.
Okay. First, these organic artificial nerves, built on devices like iJusts, are a potential game changer for energy-efficient, brain-inspired signal processing. They directly address those core limitations of conventional computing, especially when dealing with messy, real-world sensory data.
Second, this isn't just theory anymore. They are unlocking revolutionary applications right now, as we've discussed. In neuromorphic robotics, we're seeing robots capable of human-like learning and adaptable motion. And in bioelectronics, there's incredible hope for maybe restoring neural functions and creating advanced prosthetics that can genuinely sense and respond.
And third, while the progress is really astounding, significant hurdles do remain. We need to solve that power mismatch between the nerves and the effectors, achieve that ultra-low voltage operation for direct biological connection, and ensure everything is truly intrinsically stretchable for seamless integration.
Yeah, the vision for these organic artificial nerves clearly goes way beyond just mimicking biology. It's about maybe developing prosthetic limbs that don't just move, but feel like our own. It's about creating potential neural bypasses for damaged spinal cords or brains, offering perhaps renewed hope for people with paralysis or certain neurological conditions. Ultimately, it's about realizing a truly biologically plausible kind of cyborg technology, seamlessly blending the organic with the electronic in ways that could, maybe, profoundly enhance human capabilities someday. So as we stand here, really on the cusp of potentially intelligent, adaptable machines inspired by our own biology, it makes you wonder, what new senses or abilities might we unlock for ourselves if we could perhaps augment our own nervous systems with these incredible organic artificial nerves? It's definitely a question worth pondering long after this deep dive ends.